This session will cover 3 chapters in Exodus 10, 11, and 12. 12 is rather long. There is not a great deal of commentary and explanation. There will be much simple reading through the scriptures with comments as we go. We have covered some of the plagues. The first 9 are natural. Moses' rod, through which God's power acts, strengthens it. As we learn, the river Nile does turn red for about several weeks in mid-June. This particular year, great flooding washed much of that red silt into the Nile, and it was the color of blood, and the silt brought a bacterium that killed the fish, and when the fish died, the frogs jumped out of the water. Each one of these 9 plagues is natural. The dead frogs with the anthrax cause the disease of the cattle. And we are in chapter 10 ready for the last of these 9. They come in triads, and always the last and the third of the group is not predicted. The other 2 are. Chapter 10, Exodus. Verse 1. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go in unto Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of his servants, that I might show these my signs before him. 2. And that thou mayest tell the ears of thy son and of thy son's son what things I have wrought in Egypt, and my signs which I have done among them, that ye may know that I am the Lord, that sacred name. So they are to keep this story of what was done in Egypt alive for the posterity. 3. And Moses and Aaron came unto Pharaoh and said unto him, Thus saith the Lord God of Hebrews, How long wilt thou refuse to humble thyself before me? Let my people go, that they may serve me. 4. Else if thou refuse to let my people go, behold, tomorrow I will bring the locusts to thy coast. And these are grasshoppers, and they are abound today, and they eat everything in sight. 6. And they shall fill thy houses and the houses of all, 5. And they shall cover the face of the earth, that one cannot be able to see the earth, and they shall eat the residue of that which is escaped, which remaineth unto you from the hail, and shall eat every tree which groweth for you out of the field. 6. And they shall fill thy houses and the houses of all thy servants and the houses of all the Egyptians, which neither thy fathers nor thy fathers' fathers have seen since the day that they were upon the earth unto this day. And he turned himself and went out from Pharaoh. And Pharaoh's servants said unto him, How long shall this man be a snare unto us? Let the men go, for they may serve the Lord their God. Knowest thou yet that Egypt is destroyed? 8. And Moses and Aaron were brought again to Pharaoh, and he said unto them, Serve the Lord your God, but who are they that shall go? 9. And Moses said, We will go with our young, with our old, with our sons, and with our daughters, with our flocks, and with our herds will we go, for we must hold a feast unto the Lord. They wish to take every one and their animals. 10. And he said unto them, Let the Lord be so with you, I will let you go, and your little ones look to it, for evil is before you. Now he's made a threat to Moses that he can't carry out. 12. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand over the land of Egypt for the locust, that they may come upon the land of Egypt and eat every herb of the land, even all that the hail hath left. Take everything. Now the locust did come in. They had seen locust, depending upon the direction of the wind, they went into Palestine or they went into Egypt, depending upon the direction of the wind. And Moses stretched forth his rod over the land of Egypt, and the Lord brought an east wind upon the land all that day and all that night. And when it was morning, the east wind brought the locusts. 14. And the locusts went up over all the land of Egypt and rested in all the coast of Egypt. Very grievous were they. Before them there were no such locusts as they, and neither after shall be such, not the size of them, and not the number of them, ever again or ever before. 15. For they covered the face of the earth so that the land was darkened, and they did eat every herb of the land and all the fruit of the trees which the hail had left, and there remained not any green thing in the trees or in the herbs of the field throughout all the land of Egypt. Now everything is gone. Not only the food source, but the flax and the used linen for the clothing. Everything that Egypt had is about gone. 16. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron in haste, and he said, I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Now he's going to make a halfway plea for mercy from all these plagues. 17. Now therefore forgive, I pray thee, my sin only this once, and entreat the Lord your God that he may take away from me this death only. He's lying through his teeth, of course. 18. And he went out from Pharaoh and entreated the Lord. This is Moses. And the Lord turned a mighty strong west wind, which took away the locusts and cast them in the Red Sea. There remained not one locust in all the coasts of Egypt. Now remember that in end times, in Revelation, we have a locust army that comes with Satan. A symbolic locust army that will eat up belief and scripture and waiting for the true Christ. 20. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart so that he would not let the children of Israel go. 21. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. Darkness, of course, symbolic of Satan, who is called the Prince of Darkness. Now the Egyptians had their main god, Re, the sun god, was the number one god that they worshipped, and every plague has come against one god or the other. 23. 22. And Moses stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. Now this was caused by what is called in the Hebrew or Egyptian, whichever language, Kamsin, and it's a southerly wind, and it blows sand off the Sahara Desert. Now, they already had this terrible flood bringing all that red silt. There's red dust dried up everywhere, and all the herbs and trees are gone, so the soil would be quite loose. And now this wind has brought sand off the Sahara. And what you have here is a severe dust storm and a sandstorm all combined together. And if you've been in a sandstorm, even a mild one, you know that the sun cannot shine through it. I personally drove through a sandstorm once in the western United States, and the finish on my car was sanded from that wind and sand. So this is what happened to darken the sky. It was not a solar eclipse. 23. They saw not one another, neither rose out any from his place for 3 days, because of all that blowing sand. It would have gotten in their eyes and scoured their bodies. But the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. That sandstorm didn't reach up to Goshen. They were protected. Only the first 3 of these plagues touched the Israelites. They were protected in their land of Goshen up in northern Egypt, which is Kalor. And the Holy Spirit protected them, of course. 24. And Pharaoh called unto Moses and said, Go ye, serve the Lord only. Let your flocks and your herds be stayed. Let your little ones also go with you. Take the little ones. 25. And Moses said, Thou must give us also sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice unto the Lord our God. So Pharaoh has now said, Well, you can take the little people. We plan to keep them on as slaves, but you can take them, but leave the flocks. And Moses is saying we must have animals to sacrifice. 26. Our cattle also shall go with us. There shall not a hoof be left behind, for thereof must we take to serve the Lord our God, and we know not what we must serve the Lord until we come thither. Very bold statement here out of Moses. 27. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. And Pharaoh said unto him, Get thee from me, take heed to thyself, see my face no more, for in that day thou shalt seest my face, thou shalt die. And Moses said, Thou hast spoken well, I will see thy face again no more. End of chapter 10, and it is the end of face-to-face confrontations between Moses and Pharaoh. In 11, we get the 10th and final plague, and this is not a natural one. This one is carried out entirely by the angel of the Lord, who is in fact the Lord himself. And the Lord said unto Moses, Yet will I bring 1 plague more upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Afterward he will let you go thence. When he shall let you go, he shall surely thrust you out hence altogether. He won't just give permission, he's going to chase you out. 2. Speak now in the ears of the people, and let every man borrow of his neighbor, and every woman of her neighbor, jewels of silver and jewels of gold. That word borrow, translated into the English, is not a good translation. They simply went to ask, and for some reason the Egyptians the Lord bent their mind, as he can. God can change a mind and control what we do, and they are going to gladly hand over what they have. 3. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. The Lord gave it to them. Don't mark that. Moreover, the man Moses was very great in the land of Egypt in the sight of Pharaoh's servants. They'd seen what his God could pull off, and in the sight of the people. And Moses said, Thus saith the Lord, about midnight will I go out into the midst of Egypt. And we don't know if it was that actual day, but he went out at midnight. And all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and all the firstborn feast. And this firstborn would have been firstborn sons. And if you are reading certain translations, it will say the firstborn son. 6. And there shall be a great cry throughout the land of Egypt, such as there was none like it, nor shall be it any more. Never again will Egypt suffer so hard. 7. But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue against man or beast, that ye may know that the Lord doth put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. God will take care of his own, and he is going to instruct Moses the institution of the Passover, and that is how they are saved from the death. 8. And all these thy servants shall come down unto me, and bow down themselves unto me, saying, Get thee out, and all thy people that follow thee, and after that I will go out. And he went out from Pharaoh in a great anger. Moses. 9. And the Lord said unto Moses, Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, that my wonders may be multiplied in the land of Egypt. And Moses and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, and the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, so that he would not let the children of Israel go out of his land. Chapter 12 will institute the Passover. Verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. And this is instituting the religious new year amongst the Israelites and the Jewish people today. And it was the spring equinox 14 days after. And the month from the middle of March to the middle of April was called at the first Abib, and then it was changed to Nisan. Now they have another civil new year, and that is in September, celebrated today, and it is called Yom Kippur. So there's a religious new year and a civil, and that is not rare to us. Of course, we have school years, and we have financial years, and we have calendar years that run January to January, years that run July to July, years that run from September to June, depending on the kind of year we're talking about. 3. Speak unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. 4. And if one household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of souls, every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. So small households might share a lamb. They're going to put it up on the 10th day. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male. For the first year ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats. Now this would not have been a goat kid, but in the case that the goats and the sheep were running together in pasturage. 5. Your lamb. 6. And ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. That would be 14 days after the spring equinox. And the spring equinox occurs when we have equal dark and equal light, and it will be, depending on the calendar, March 20, 21, or 22. And Passover is counted 14 days out from the equinox. the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. Now, it was killed, and we learn later it was at the 3 p.m. watch. And that was what happened in Jerusalem when Jesus hung on the cross. He died at 3 p.m. at the exact time when the Passover lambs were being slaughtered. Symbolic, because he became our Passover. We are told in the New Testament, he is our Passover because death can't claim us. We can, because of his sacrificial death, have life eternal. And this ceremony here, this religious ritual that is instituted here in this chapter has been carried out throughout the centuries. 7, and they shall take the blood and strike it on the 2 sides of the post on the upper doorpost of the house, whereupon they shall eat it. Wherever they're going to eat, this house is going to have blood on the 2 side posts and on the upper. Now look at that. It forms a cross. 2 sides, the lintels, and the topmost post of the house. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire, and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Celebrated amongst Jews today, called the Seder Feast. 9, eat it not raw nor sodden, and that would be boiled at all with water, but roast with fire, his head with his legs, and with the purtenance thereof. 10, and you shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, and that which remaineth of it in the morning you shall burn with fire. God is a consuming fire, and the entirety of the Passover lamb that isn't eaten is to be totally burnt as a burnt offering. 11, and thus shall you eat it with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. When you eat this feast, you have be ready to roll with your shoes on and your rod. 12, for I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. This is judgment against Egypt, redemption for the Israelites. 13, and the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite Israel, the Passover. 14, and the day shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generations, and shall keep a feast by ordinance forever, not ever to change. 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away leaven out of your houses, for whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day unto the 7th, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. Leaven, symbolic of sin, and today Passover for Christians has been replaced with communion, unleavened bread and wine. 16, and in the first day there shall be a holy convocation, and in the 7th day there shall be a holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done of you. On that high holy day of Passover, commencing at sundown on that 14th day, no work. You can eat. and you better have it already cooked. And that is why, after Jesus gave up the ghost at 3 p.m., they hustled him into a grave quickly, because at sundown Passover began. Their days began at sundown, ours began at midnight. So they had to get him in a tomb before sundown. 17. And ye shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in this selfsame day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall ye observe this day in your generation by an ordinance forever. Now, notice it's not a law, it's an ordinance. It's an ordinance. And Jesus took away all the ordinances. 18. In the first month, on the 14th day of the year, at even, sundown, ye shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at even. 19. 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses, for whosoever eateth that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land. 20. You shall eat nothing leavened, in all your habitations shall you eat unleavened bread. 21. And Moses called for the elders of Israel, and said unto them, Draw out and take you a lamb according to your families, and kill the Passover. 22. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop, and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and on 2 side posts with the blood that is in the basin, and none of you shall go out the door of his house until the morning. Hyssop would have been a herb, a tall herb, and they would use it as a paintbrush to paint the blood on the door frames. For the Lord will pass through to smite the Egyptians, and when he seeth the blood upon the lintel and upon the 2 side posts, the Lord will pass over the door, and will not suffer the destroyer to come into your house to smite you. And 24. Ye shall observe this thing for an ordinance to thee and to thy sons forever. 25. And it shall come to pass, when ye come to the land which the Lord will give you according as he has promised, that ye shall keep this service. When you get out of here and get in that promised land that was promised to Abraham, you keep this Passover. And they did. 27. That ye shall say, It is the sacrifice of the Lord's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses. And the people bowed their heads and worshipped. 28. And the children of Israel went away and did as the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron, and did they. 28. And it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. 30. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. 31. And he called for Moses and Aaron by night, and said, Rise up, and get you forth from among my people, both ye and the children of Israel, and go serve the Lord as ye have said. Finally, Pharaoh's attention has been gotten. 32. And take your flocks and your herds as ye have said, and be gone, and bless me also. So he is asking for a blessing from Moses and Aaron. 33. And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, We be all dead men. 34. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, not time to wait. their kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. 35. And the children of Israel, according to the word of Moses, and they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver and gold and raiment. They left they left Egypt to head out for the promised land with everything of value. It was like an army had sacked a place and taken spoils, and the people gave it up willingly. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them, they gave it to them, with things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. They sacked them clean. 37. And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramesses, that's a city, to Succoth, and that means booths, about 600,000 on foot that were men, beside children. They didn't count the men or women or the children, so that number was great. I think they estimate more than maybe close to 2 million people. And think about Moses at 80 and Aaron at 83 being in charge of this peoples. 38. And a mixed multitude went up also with them, and flocks and herds, opened very much cattle. Some of the Egyptians were believers, and they went along too. 39. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they brought forth out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt and could not tarry, neither had they prepared for themselves any victuals. 40. Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. 430 years since the promise that they could be in the promised land. 42. It is a night to be much observed unto the Lord for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. This is that night of the Lord to be observed, all the children of Israel in their generations. And I refer you to Jeremiah 33:20. 43. And the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover, and there shall no stranger eat thereof. It's to yourselves. But every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. 45. A foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof. 45. In one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth aught of the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shall ye break a bone thereof. The Passover lambs were not to have a bone broken. And the prophecies tell us that Jesus would not have a bone broken. Now, the crucifixions carried out by the Romans, there was a place for the feet. And as the person weakened, would need to push against that platform, push down with the feet to fill the lungs with air, and to hasten the death of a crucified person, the Roman broke their legs so they could not push down. They did not break a single bone of Jesus. They pierced his side. And that too was prophesied. 47. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. 48. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it, and he shall be as one that is been in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. Wouldn't allow a non-believer to take the Passover, and our communion today is reserved for believers, and it is taken in remembrance of Jesus, who instituted it as he and his disciples gathered in the upper room before his arrest later in the garden. 49. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and to the stranger that sojourneth among you. 50. Thus did all the children of Israel, as the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron, so did they. 51. To conclude the chapter. And it came to pass the selfsame day that the Lord did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies. This video has been a volunteer outreach of the Essex United Methodist Church in Essex, Missouri. Thank you.